My husband asked me a question recently, and that question was, when did you get drive? He said, were you always born with drive? Because we, at nighttime, we like to ask each other questions to see, where we are, our evolution, and just learn more about each other that we didn't know before. And he said, because it seems to me that you have such a strong drive and you've had it since I met you, which was 15 years ago. So his question was, when did you get it? Did you grow up with it? Did you get it as a teenager? And the answer was no. So let me take you back. I was born in a very toxic, dysfunctional home. I had a father who I like to say was in the pharmaceutical industry. Wasn't necessarily the legal way, but he was addicted to drugs. And I had a very depressed mother who was, I call her functional depressed. So she was depressed, but she was able to function enough to go to work, go to church, and get back in bed. So that's all I was around. When you're around depression, if you know anything about being around someone who's addicted to drugs, drugs has an atmosphere. So I would see people coming in and out of our house who were very they seemed like dangerous people. And it always put me in a state of being frantic and anxiety and fear and sadness. There was no joy in my home. Was I loved? Yes, I have no doubt that I was loved, but did I feel it? No, because the atmosphere was very sad and depressed. And when you are exposed to so much sadness, I always say you become what you behold. So, because of that, my whole life growing up was very depressed. I was always sad and I was always in a place of just wanting to make sure everything was okay. Because my father was so addicted to drugs, he was the provider for the home. But of course, when you have these addictions, you will do anything to get money and to give it away. So, because of that, our utilities were disconnected a lot. And I always tell the story that when I was little, I didn't know this, but my mom would light a candle and then she'd make a big little cast iron skillet of cornbread. And you know me as a kid, it doesn't matter. It was sweet. She let me put syrup on it, and I thought I had the coolest mom. She lets me eat cornbread and syrup for dinner with a candle. I grew to know later that it's because we didn't have any electricity. We had no lights. We had no food. And so cornbread was our dinner. And that was my reality for a very long time. So I had no big hopes. You ask children, what do you want to be when you grow up? I didn't have any big hopes. My biggest hope was I want to be able to have lights. I want to be able to have food. I want to be able to just walk in a house and just be able to pay my bills. Again, because when all you are exposed to is lack, scarcity, fear, you don't believe for more, which is why I tell women the most dangerous people to be around is people who are depressed, who have no hope, who have no desire to live in a big way, who think that abundance is a profanity cursing word, because then you'll become that. And they'll convince you that your desire to think big, live big is just ridiculous because they can't believe past what they see. Your life is a result of your belief system. Soak that in. Your life is a result of your belief system. Everything that you see in your life right now is a result of what you believe. And so I went through many, many years this way as a preteen. Many of you already know this story, but a lot of you are brand new. So I'm retelling this story. But I was then molested as a preteen by my youth pastor at that time because I was desperately looking for a father and a father figure. After that, it was a wrap. Rebellious teenager. I myself got into all types of drugs and alcohol, and I wanted all the boyfriends. Well, not all the boyfriends. I was in love with a couple though, but it led me on this path of just recklessness. 2007, I was in therapy at the time with my college therapist. And she, after many, many months, she said, I just want to be honest with you. You don't really have any hope for a quality life. She said, what I can do is two options. I can either give you medicine, these happy pills, as she called them, to wake up and it will get you going for the day. And then she said, you can take more pills at night to put you to sleep. Now, I'm the type that I can't even take Tylenol. So back then, that was not in the question. Even now, if I have to go to the doctor and they offer me Tylenol, I ask them, can you get that little slicer and slice it? I know. To know me is to know that. So that was not an option. And then she said the second option was that you can go to a mental hospital. Definitely not an option, because here's why. When I was growing up, my biological father went to a mental hospital. And I will never forget what it felt like. It felt like death, fear, and hopelessness trapped in one. To walk down the hallways and see someone strapped down to the bed, to see another room of someone screaming, it was such a traumatic atmosphere for me that I knew that that was never an option for me. And so I left out of that office feeling very defeated that day because she gave me no hope. That was the day I told the Lord, I said, I don't even know if you're listening to me because I've been out here a little bit, wild and out, but just in case you happen to listen to me today, because I know I haven't talked to you for a while. I just need something from you. I just need to know that you're real, because if not, I plan to run myself off the bridge. See, I'm originally from Memphis, Tennessee, where there's this big bridge, and I had no plans not to do this because I wasn't for sure if he was listening to me. But just in case he was, I wanted to try. So I went home. My mom wasn't at home, and I put on my church clothes. I had to try to find something, that was reasonable to wear because my club clothes weren't reasonable. Okay. I had some slacks and a little shirt, and my mom kept looking at me like, where are you going? I said, I'm going to church. And she had a bunch of questions like, just let me go. Went to church. The preacher was preaching, and I knew the pastor, but I hadn't seen him. The last time I saw him was around that 10 and 11-year-old age, and I was 21 now. So I wasn't sure if he would even know me. So he was preaching, and I was like, Lord, if he doesn't calm me down and pray for me, then the bridge is around the corner. Nobody will miss me. See, the devil will always remind you of your past and how much terrible things happen to you, but he'll never remind you of your future. So the devil kept reminding me, look at what all you've done. Look at what all you've been through. Nobody will ever want you. Your family won't miss you. He'll always tell you lies because he's the father of lies. He's the daddy of lies. And so I didn't know that at that time, and I believed it. So towards the end of the sermon, the pastor was like, all right, we're getting ready to wrap up. So I had my head down, like, all right, well, I'll take the bridge. And right then, the pastor said, hey, you, come down here. At this point, he did not know who I was. Keep in mind, he had not seen me for 10 years. So he told me to come down. And all of a sudden, I just broke down crying, feeling the presence of the Lord. And he said, wait, is that you? And I said, yes. I said, what you don't know is I was getting ready to commit suicide. And he prayed for me, and the heaviness fell off me. And I knew that day that not only did God love me, but that he was listening to me. And that the devil was trying very, very hard to stop me. Right now, you can't see them, but I have a group of ladies here right now with me. And I almost shudder at the thought of what would have happened had I gone through that. The husband I would have never married. The children I would have never birthed. The ladies' lives I would not have been able to invest in and train. I shudder at that thought. So the reason why you're watching this video is there's a reason. It's probably because the enemy has told you some lies about yourself. But remember, he is a liar. Jesus only thinks the best of you. He knows the thoughts that he has towards you. And it's not thoughts of how much you messed up. It's not thoughts of how bad your life has been. It's thoughts of a great future. I want to tell you something, and it's this. The pain of your past cannot compare to the joy of what's coming. What the devil wants to do is to convince you to stop because your life is insignificant and nobody would care about you. But the fact that he's trying so hard to tell you that story is only a sign that God has a great purpose for you. Let's fast forward. This was December 2007, but the only problem was my birthday was in January. And even though I rededicated my life to the Lord, I had already planned my 22nd birthday. And there was this tension of, okay, God, you got that depression off me, with the realization that I only wanted what God could do for me, but I didn't want him yet. It's possible to want the blessing, but not want the blesser. It's possible to want the healing and not want the healer. There's always the tension of wanting to go on this healing journey, but not wanting to go on it with the Lord. He is the healer. He is the Lord that healeth thee. So I had my 22nd birthday and I was utterly miserable, okay? My friends and I, we got drunk, we went to the club, but I was changed. And there was a call of God on my life. See, when you have a call of God on your life, other people can do the same thing as you, but you feel uncomfortable. They can go to the same party as you and go to sleep, and you're up at night miserable. They can go to the same brunch and get all the cocktails, do all the shots, and you can do it, and something in you won't rest. Want to know what that is? That's the call of God. So I left my 22nd birthday, and I was drinking, and I was partying, and I was doing all these things with my friends, but I went home miserable because the call was calling me, and greater than the call was the love of God. It was the love of God saying, this is not you. It was the love of God saying, you don't fit in. It was the love of God saying, I've chosen you. So everything that you try to do that other people can do, you'll never be comfortable. So for a few months, I was in this tension of, okay, I'm a new person, but I don't want my friends to think I'm acting funny. You know, in college, I was kind of like, an it girl, kind of had it going on. And I didn't want them to feel like I had changed. Back then, I didn't have enough identity to know that when people tell you that you've changed, it's a good thing. Why in the world would you ever want to stay the same? But then something happened, and I had this little situation on the side. I called this guy a situation. This guy that I thought that I would marry, and I was trying to get closer to the Lord and keep my situation too. And one time the Lord spoke to me and he said, how long will you grieve over that relationship I have rejected? The way I cried, the way I grieved, and the Lord said again, how long will you mourn over this relationship I rejected? Because he was not saved. He was not living for Jesus. But I was trying to convince the Lord he's a good guy. It's because I didn't believe that I was worth having a man who passionately pursued Jesus. Because when you refuse to wait on God's timing, you won't settle for God's best. You'll settle for good enough. But God, in his infinite love, was willing to hurt my feelings to save my future. Let me repeat that. Sometimes God is willing to hurt your feelings to save your future. When he told me that, he didn't give me a promise that you're about to meet your husband. But 6 months later, I met my husband, and it was a wrap. Because I believe that sometimes God wants to know, will you trust him even if he doesn't give you the plan? We're controlling people. We feel like I'll do it if you tell me it's going to work. Let me tell you the promise that you have. Walking with the Lord, it will always work. Walking with the Lord, loving Him, pursuing Him, you can never go wrong with